Good morning, I'm meteorologist Nicholas Herboso here on the Fox 10 Gulf Stream and live streaming on Facebook right now with an update on Tropical Depression number 4. We're looking at the 10 a.m. Central Daylight Time Advisory. It came out about an hour ago. Put some things together with this advisory package so we can take a little bit more of an in-depth look at it. Once again, we are streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube. If you have any questions, head to the comments of the stream and I'll have those over here and I can actually answer those. So here we are with our update for the 10 o'clock advisory on Tropical Depression number 4. Some key points to get out of the way right now. For our Fox 10 viewing area, for our local area here in the Mobile, Pensacola market, there are no direct impacts expected from Tropical Depression number 4. That being said, I am still going to go in depth on some of the impacts expected for the Big Bend region and for the Florida Peninsula as the thing moves closer over the next day or so. So we are going to break that down in detail, get into some details about what impacts they might see. Once again, our impacts locally are none. However, we will be seeing rough surf, especially towards the end of the weekend, late Sunday and into Monday, Tuesday as well. Here are the current particulars on Tropical Depression number 4. It is not a tropical storm yet. However, it might become one later today or tomorrow. This is a 35-mile-per-hour tropical storm with pressure of 1,009 millibars. So, tropical depression, excuse me. So this is a true tropical depression. Winds moving west-northwest at movement is west-northwest at 15 miles per hour. It is crossing Cuba at this time, going to be making its way into the Gulf of Mexico. As I just mentioned, as it gets into the Gulf of Mexico, it could strengthen into a tropical storm. At that point, its name would be Debbie. If it doesn't do that tonight, it would do that tomorrow, and then it'll be moving up the western coast of that Florida peninsula, the Gulf Coast of Florida there, and approaching the Big Bend region. Here's the forecast path as of this advisory, zooming right into landfall location. So you see Sunday, 8 a.m., it is off the coast of Florida, about 100 miles if you look at the center of the track. Similar story by Sunday at 8 p.m. off the coast of Tampa there, around 100 miles off. And it is a 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm. Notice by Monday, it becomes a 70-mile-per-hour tropical storm. Its name would be Debbie. And the forward motion begins to slow down, meaning it is moving slower. However, the strength of the storm as it starts to slow down could increase, meaning the wind speeds associated with the storm could increase. 70 miles per hour, could we see a minimal hurricane with winds of 75 miles per hour? It is very possible. Therefore, we have hurricane watches that have been issued for this Big Bend region. What happens after this? Late Monday into Tuesday, this storm crosses Florida very slowly, then crosses southern Georgia. The steering flow around the storm really pulls back and it essentially stalls this storm. Could emerge over the Atlantic and re-strengthen. That is a possibility. Whenever you see the forecast cone looking like a big bubble like this, that's when you know the forward motion of the storm is extremely slow and things can become more uncertain. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Right now we're looking at the storm moving up the coast of Florida and moving across Cuba at this time. Here's a zoomed in high-resolution satellite loop here. This is a 1-minute update, our mesoscale floater as we call it, sitting right over the storm, taking images and feeding them rapidly so we can see what is going on with the storm. Notice we don't have any thunderstorms near the center of circulation. Center of circulation about-ish right here. We'll take a look at that in the visible satellite imagery, get a better image of that. A lot of thunderstorms to the south of the circulation, but we'll be watching later today if more thunderstorms develop near the center. Looking at the visible version of this, so that was the infrared, now we're looking at visible, and you can kind of see where the wind is flowing here. You can see wind out of the south and southeast here, then generally easterly wind, then northeasterly, then northerly. That's completing the circulation of Tropical Depression number 4, placing it right over Cuba here. So that's the current analysis of the satellite at this time. It looks like this storm will continue to get its act together as it moves into the Gulf of Mexico. Here's a look at the current winds with this storm. 22-mile-per-hour wind gusts in Key West at this time. You can see that bright area where some of the stronger winds are at this time. But otherwise, not seeing too much, not seeing strong winds. Once again, this is a tropical depression, so we would not expect very much in the way of winds at this time. However, looking in the future, we could see some wind impact from this storm. We have tropical storm warnings that have been issued up across the entire coast there of Florida. That is in that darker color here, and I'll point that out. So tropical storm warnings for portions of the Keys, the Dry Tortugas, all the way up to Tampa, and then points north as well. Then you see this darker or brighter pink area, I should say. That is a hurricane watch that has been issued. This is for the Big Bend region. I have the forecast track overlaid. Notice that this is near the center of the cone. So where we're expecting this storm to move in, we have the possibility that it could be a hurricane. Therefore, we have those hurricane watches that have been issued. Let's look at a wind forecast. This is with our graph model, which is a model that we have here at Fox 10. You can see in the orange here, that is tropical storm force wind. And this wind would be blowing on shore here, so we do have a surge issue that we're thinking about for the coast of Florida. On the other side, we have a northerly wind. But you can see that we will have tropical storm force winds pushing water up against the coast, so we will have some small storm surge issues. But once again, this is only a tropical storm, not a hurricane, thankfully. Advancing this forward, the storm could strengthen and we could see a possible hurricane as it approaches the Big Bend region, this very rural region of the coast here. There's only a couple small villages here. Otherwise, it is just forested swamp. But tropical storm force winds as it approaches may be hurricane force. As you can see there, our timing, this is 12 a.m. on Monday. 12 a.m. on Monday and making landfall some point there. Notice Cedar Key, which has seen its fair share of tropical trouble over the years, would be getting an onshore flow and likely some storm surge there. With this, we do have storm surge alerts that have been issued, and we'll take a look at that now. Here they are. You see in the faded color there, you have a storm surge watch. Well, we do have a storm surge warning for places like Cedar Key. Let's look at the storm surge totals now that we could see. In the blue area, up to 3 feet. 1 to 3 feet of storm surge, while 2 to 4 feet places like Tampa Bay. And then we go north to the main area where around Cedar Key, Horseshoe Beach, we could see 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. What this means here is water levels along the coast could reach those heights above ground level. So if you're standing right at the beach, above ground level 3 to 5 feet. Another thing that we're thinking about with this storm, on top of the wind and the storm surge, is the rainfall issues. I have the spaghetti plots pulled up here. Notice how all of them take it towards the Big Bend of Florida. However, beyond this point, the models get a little squiggly. The storm is slowing down, as I mentioned earlier. So here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, this very slow motion is going to mean problems for especially Georgia and South Carolina, maybe even North Carolina here with heavy, heavy rainfall totals. Take a look at the totals here. This is from the Weather Prediction Center. 5 to 10 inches expected with 10 to 15, possibly more along the coast there of South Carolina and Georgia. Now these bullseye, understand, these bullseyes will move around. They will over the next few days as we start to hone in on a better forecast, especially later next week whenever the storm is stalling, or next week when the storm is stalling. So pay attention to that forecast, especially those in Georgia, South Carolina. If you have interest in Georgia, South Carolina, that's a place where the storm could stall. Also, don't forget about North Florida. We are expecting a lot of rain, at least probably 5 inches in many areas there. Also notice the cutoff here from the western side of the storm, where we have very little rainfall totals, and that includes the Fox 10 viewing area. So we're not expecting much out of this. In fact, our rain chances locally will be lowering as this thing moves off to our east. So here it is once again, the 35-mile-per-hour tropical depression number 4. Here's the forecast track once again, taking it into the Big Bend of Florida by around Monday. Our forecast model had it Monday midnight. That has Monday 7 a.m., so there's a little bit of back and forth. We'll have to pay attention to that in the short-term trends as it approaches the coast. Pretty confident that it won't end up directly over Tampa. Pretty confident that it won't end up over, say, Pensacola. I'm not expecting that much of a shift. We're looking pretty confident in this track because all the models over the past few runs have been consistent, and that's what we want to see. Now, after this, it gets a little bit more interesting, as I mentioned, as the storm slows down. We have that big ball, that big bubble in the forecast track. We're going to see the storm meandering over the southeastern United States, dumping tons and tons of rain. So no major impacts here locally. However, I do want to mention the rip current risk. It is moderate starting Sunday night into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Could we see it go to high? It's possible. We'll be watching as the swell approaches our area. Just be careful if you have beach plans, especially Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll have that northerly wind, but it's still enough that we're going to have to pay attention. Pay attention to those beach flags as always if you're down at the beaches. I'm going to leave us with a look at our local 7-day forecast because we have some big things going on. As we get that dry northerly wind on the western side of the storm, all the action off to our east, we see drier air moving in and our temperatures rising. Essentially, we're getting a bit of a what would simulate a high pressure system over us. We're going to get less cloud cover, less showers and thunderstorms, and more heat, along with some drier air, slightly drier air, very slightly. So you see our temperatures going up 99 and 100 degrees for Wednesday and Thursday there. So this is going to be an extremely hot forecast next week. Good thing is we're not dealing with a hurricane, but we're dealing with some heat. So take it however you will. But thankfully, we're not dealing with that hurricane because we do not want to deal with that. 100 degrees Wednesday, Thursday. That's not the best, but we'll take it. Looking ahead in the forecast, we might see a return of rain chances later in the week into next weekend. So that's the update on Tropical Depression number 4. We're going to be giving you updates pretty much every major advisory we can and all the mini advisories as well. I recommend you follow us on social media as well. We provide more frequent updates, and if you like to stay updated, that is a way to do this. And a couple other points, just kind of rambling on here. I'll mention that, this storm is not going to be impacting us locally, but we are still going to provide it coverage just so you can stay updated. We're not trying to scare anybody with these updates. We have nothing to worry about, and to be quite honest, this is a tropical storm for Florida, which nothing out of the ordinary for them. So we're just going to try to keep you updated, provide the latest information we can. Of course, thank you so much for joining us here. I'm meteorologist Nicholas Raboso. I'll be in the rest of the weekend keeping you updated all the way through. So stick with us here. I'll leave you with a 10-day outlook. We thank you so much for joining us.